Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. It is now playing. I am your host today, Marko, your sports previews editor. We're doing things a little differently today. As you probably have seen on the site, Forza 4 is fast approaching. In fact, it comes out on Tuesday, and we had a review this morning go up. And we wanted to show it off a little bit in action, so we're doing things a little differently, and we've invited our tamed racing driver to take control of the game. Some say he has the highest score recorded for Tetris, and he's still playing it right now. Others say that he's the basis of Lara Croft. All we know is he's the GameSpot Stig. As you see, we've got our pro driver here. Stig, thanks a lot for coming onto the show. I'm glad you're here. Anything you want to say to our viewers? Excellent. I guess he's really focused on driving today, and as you can see behind me and momentarily on the screen, he's racing on one of the 5 courses available in Forza 4. It is the Top Gear test track. He's right now driving in a Ferrari 458 Italia version, and as we are racing, feel free to post in the message board on the chat if you have any questions. Hopefully momentarily I will be joined by our reviewer Justin Calvert, who actually wrote the review and played the game ad nauseum. Hopefully he'll be able to answer some questions. Until then, I'll do my best to answer what I can. As you see, Stig is driving on the famed course from Top Gear. The game does a really good job of replicating the course to a great degree, although the Stig seems to have gone well off course, but he's refusing to use the rewind features as he gets back onto the main course itself. According to what I've read, I believe there's 34 courses in the game. There are only 5 new courses. Justin in his review posted those. There's the Top Gear road course that we're racing on right now, as well as the Infineon race course, the Bernese Alps, and I believe I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but there is one more course, the Helmkenring course. So Stig, how is the handling of the car? Doing good? Stig does not feel like commenting on this. If I'm not mistaken, in the Auto Vista mode, it is just Jeremy Clarkson's voice in the game. We've got a question up that's asking about which Top Gear voices are in the game. As far as I've heard and seen, it is just Jeremy Clarkson. It'd be nice if the entire cast is there, you know, May, Hammond. They'd be nice if they're there. There's no US Top Gear interaction in the game as far as I know. Someone's asking about the Halo car. The Warthog is in the game, but in order to obtain it, it is quite a challenge. I believe you have to do a number of course objectives and reach a certain level to get it. You actually cannot race in it. Turn 10 and 343 stated the reason why they couldn't put in the game is because the car itself, first off, isn't fast. So driving the Warthog, you'd be only going about 40 miles an hour, you know, less than 100 kilometers an hour. So it wouldn't really be that enjoyable to race in that. Also, the tires involved with the Warthog are not normal racing tires, so you wouldn't be getting good traction with it on a tarmac course. It'd be nice if you could, but you know, considering that you're still able to look at it in Auto Vista, it's a worthwhile experience. So the Stig left the Top Gear test course, and he's going to try out one of the other courses in the game. First, he's going to select a car, as you can see behind me. There are numerous cars available in the game. Let's see which one he'll test out right now. Looks like he's going to go with a BMW, and it will be the M3. Oh, it's not available yet. As you see, we are playing the retail version of the game, so we're not hiding anything. We're playing it real time with you guys. What you'll be able to experience and what you'll be restricted and not available once the game hits stores on Tuesday. you guys have any more questions or things that you want us to touch upon with Forza 4, please feel free to leave a message in the chat room. We'll try our best to show off what we can. And now I'm lucky enough to finally be with Justin Calvert, who reviewed the game. Justin, thanks for coming
Marko,
on.
yeah, sorry I'm a little late.
No worries, it's the nature of the business.
Yeah.
So you finished the review. What are your overall thoughts?
I did. You know, so everyone knows I was a huge Forza 3 fan. You know, I gave that a 9.5 2 years ago, sorry. And you know, I had the union on GameSpot with the Forza paint shop where we're all customizing cars and racing every weekend, all that kind of stuff. You can still do all of that in Forza 4, so I'm loving Forza 4. But if you've read the review, you know, I give it an 8.5, which is still a really great score. I know some people are a little unhappy that it's not a 9, but you know, it's still an awesome game.
Exactly.
It's just, you know, for me personally, I was a little disappointed that there's only like 5 new tracks.
Okay. Yeah, people were asking about that. I wasn't sure what are the 5 new courses in the game.
You've got there's the Top Gear test track. There's Infineon Raceway, Hockenheimring. There's the new Bunny's Alps track, and oh man, I knew I missed one.
It's the Indianapolis one.
Oh yeah, and the Indianapolis, yeah, the Speedway. Yeah, and they're all great tracks, you know. But yeah, I think, you know, just like 2 years after Forza, you know, 5 more tracks, it just doesn't. I don't know. For me, it didn't quite cut it. Like, it's just like I just had so much deja vu while I'm playing it, you know, especially early in the career, where it's like, okay, I'm driving the same cars and mostly on the same tracks, and yeah, I mean, you know, the handling's better now, and the lighting and the graphics are definitely improved.
Yeah, I saw your video preview, and it really did show off, especially the sun when it slashes on the car, and then even when you're racing, regardless of which view you're looking at, you can still have the be blinded by the sunlight.
Yeah, and you know, there's a real short bit in the video review where we you know, actually compare, you know, run alongside like the same. It's like the Toyota 2000 GT, which is my favorite car of all time. So it's just me kind of driving that, not particularly fast, around Laguna Seca, and it's the exact same car and the exact same track in both games. And it's very apparent that, you know, Forza 4 looks significantly better.
Now, can you recall how many cars are actually in this version?
I think I want to say it's around 500 that are in right now, and then there's obviously going to be a ton of DLC coming. They're doing the season pass thing. That costs about like $30 or something, I think, for the season pass, and that gets you that gives you a 30% saving on, I guess, like 4 big chunks of DLC. I don't know whether those are going to include tracks as well. I haven't actually been following that stuff that closely, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more cars coming down the pipe. So
I'm going to put you on the spot right now, because
Sure.
it's going to happen. If you had to choose only one racing game, Gran Turismo 5, Forza 4, which would it be?
For me, it's Forza 4.
Okay.
But that's, I mean, a big part of that for me is like I'm way into the community side of it, and while I'm not particularly good at tuning cars, I'm way into the vinyl designs. Of course, yeah. I didn't have as much time to mess with that in Forza 4 as I did with 3, but they didn't change that much to that with that aspect of the game. They just added some new shapes. So yeah, but you know, I made a GameSpot car that appears in the video review, and I'm working on some other designs that I'll get up on my storefront at some point and hopefully make some money on.
Now, you've been playing with Forza, the series, for a while. With the design and with the vinyls, is someone who hasn't done that before, can they jump in and still be able to produce content that's worth sharing?
Yeah, it's weird because I'm really glad Forza does it this way, right? Because if you think like the alternative, and when you look at some of these cars, when you look at them, people are able to recreate like photorealistic likenesses of their favorite celebrities and that kind of thing, and you know, skin cars with that stuff, and that's amazing when you realize the tools that they're using to do it, because it's you know, you're not able to import photos from the internet or anything like that. It's all just using geometric shapes and kind of race iconography, like little checkered flags and this kind of stuff, and just manipulating those shapes in such a way that you create almost a photo. So it's pretty intimidating as a new user to come in I would just say like don't kind of know your limits, right? Like don't try and be too ambitious. Like don't try and come in and make a photo of your favorite celebrity right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like for me, my biggest things with Forza 3 were probably like the GameSpot logo, which is pretty simple. You know, it's kind of geometric shapes anyway. I had to custom make the font, which took a little while, and get like the kind of orange to yellow gradient thing in there. But they have shapes with gradients built in that make that pretty easy. And then the Red Bull logo, which took me like way longer than I want to admit. But I made a fortune off that thing because I was the first person to have it up and for sale. So yeah, that paid for most of my cars in Forza 3.
Excellent. Now let's go back to comparing Forza 4 with Gran Turismo 5. Do you feel as though one stands out more so over the other in terms of realism, in terms of course, authenticity?
Man, it's tough. I mean, Gran Turismo, I think probably does a lot more with the realism, but then some of the stuff, I mean, they go to such minute kind of details and stuff that some of that I don't think is even that noticeable.
Okay.
Like we only know they're doing that stuff because they tell us they're doing that stuff. And it's, I mean, Forza, they do, apparently they do a lot more with tires this year. Great, but did that have some huge impact on my experience playing the game? Not really. I think the one area where Gran Turismo really wins over Forza is just that they include night races and they include like wet weather conditions.
Yes.
So I was pretty disappointed that wasn't in Forza 4 yet. Like I think it's kind of time. We've got Gran Turismo doing a great job with that stuff. The F1 games do a great job with wet weather. So yeah, I think it's time for Forza to catch up.
Well, I know. See, I've only played the demo for Forza 4, and I know that like when you're racing the Burmese Alps, it actually tells you the weather, and it says 24 degrees Fahrenheit, which is freezing temperatures. So the course itself should be harder to drive on because it is should be icy conditions. So
yeah, I certainly haven't noticed that it is. Yeah, it's kind of weird when you're setting up a custom race online or anything. You go in and as the host of a session, you can choose like track condition, but actually the options are just different times of day.
Okay.
So it's like you want to race in the late afternoon or the early morning or at noon or so it's just and it's it does have a really impressive and dramatic effect on the lighting, but yeah, it doesn't noticeably impact the driving.
Now, is the feel of the driving, has it differed at all from Forza 3 to Forza 4?
Yeah, I mean the cars are definitely a bit more responsive. Like I went back and played some Forza 3 both prior to working on Forza 4 and also during the review process, just to get the footage of the two games and that kind of thing. And I was actually surprised how different it felt. Like because it'd been a little while since I played Forza 3, so jumping into Forza 4 didn't feel that foreign or jarring. But yeah, it's pretty different. The cars are more responsive, and actually if you turn off some of the driving aids, at least for me, I found it harder switching off all the driving aids. Part of that is, I think the first time I tried to turn off the traction control, I was in one of the like Australian V8s, which is just a real handful. Like trying to get off the line, it's like I hit the gas and the thing just starts fishtailing everywhere. It's like, okay, I'm not ready to race this particular car without traction control yet. But it's fun to just kind of build up to that, by default, when you start playing, all of the assists are on, and that's, even if you're a complete newcomer to driving games, that's probably a bit much. Okay. Because they're trying to brake for you, they're helping you with steering. They're doing so much for you that it's almost like you're on autopilot. So, but then it's cool, you start turning them off one by one, and you get into a groove, and then if you start winning races a little too easily, you turn a couple more off, and eventually you'll find the kind of sweet spot where you feel like you're being challenged, but you're also you're still able to win some races. You don't want to just spend your whole time spinning out or careening into barriers. So.
Now, with some of the newer features in the game, such as Auto Vista, can you elaborate a little bit more on what racing fans can expect in that mode? Yeah,
so Auto Vista, a lot of you guys probably saw some of it already. They did a lot with it in the preview coverage. There are 24 cars, I think, included with the game. on the disc, and so they're all, and those are the ones that have been recreated in the most stunning detail. It's certainly comparable with the premium cars in GT5,
okay.
probably even surpassing them in some respects. And yeah, so in Auto Vista mode, the Connect is optional. I tried it out. I prefer using just the controller, honestly. It's quicker. And yeah, and so you just presented, you're inside a showroom, you're looking at this immaculately detailed recreation of a car, and you're really just kind of walking around it, and then as you're looking at the car, icons pop up on kind of areas of interest, and you can zoom in on those, and then you get both graphic information and kind of voiceover stuff, just giving you a lot of detail on everything from like the wheels to how a rear wing works. You can even pop the hood, look at the engine and highlight different parts of the engine. Open the car door, climb into the passenger seat or the driver's seat. Start messing with a couple of the buttons on the dash, okay. Even. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's for some of us, it's like we're never going to get inside an Aston Martin 177, mm-hmm. right? Like I doubt I will get to do that in my lifetime. So this is probably as close as I'm ever going to get to that. So that was pretty cool, and you can turn the key to hear the engine revving, and then from that mode, if you want, you can just grab the steering wheel and take it for a test drive.
Now, I was asked earlier before you got onto the show, Jeremy Clarkson, he does the voiceover work for the Auto Vista mode. Yeah. Any of the other members of Top Gear involved in that, or is it just Clarkson?
No, there are no other Top Gear guys, and actually, even Jeremy Clarkson doesn't do that much in Auto Vista mode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's at least the cars that I checked, he actually just does one kind of big overall, like he does a big overview, which is, it's definitely like humorous, like okay. you definitely get his personality coming through. But when you highlight other things, like just the wheels, for example, then I forget the name of the guy. It's a guy who did some work in Forza 3 as well. Okay. I think, and yeah, he gives you a much kind of drier, just like the facts about about these wheels and why they're on this car, mm-hmm. and what makes them awesome. I was a little disappointed with that first because I'm a huge Top Gear fan, like a lot of people, yeah. And I kind of assumed that Jeremy Clarkson would be doing everything. But he doesn't. I would have loved to see a bit more Jeremy Clarkson and just a lot more Top Gear in the game, actually.
Well, they gave off the impression that he was that he had a greater role in that mode, because they even did that, during PAX when they showed off the Warthog, that he even did the voice for that, and they were poking fun of Porsche for various reasons, as we all know, So I was expecting he would be a little bit greater involved.
Yeah, his stuff is great, but he wasn't involved as much as I would have liked. And yeah, it would be awesome to see the other guys in there too. That'd be really fun.
Now let's go back to the, you were mentioning briefly about the Connect usage with Auto Vista. Connect also allows you to race with the head tracking. What was your experience with that?
I kind of like it. The effect is pretty subtle. Like it took me a while to get used to it, because at first I was trying to very deliberately turn my head around and stuff, and the effect isn't that dramatic. And it's probably a good thing, because if I'm playing and then, you want to talk to me, I don't want to, if I turn my head a little bit, I don't want to suddenly not be able to see where my car's actually going. But it's kind of neat. It definitely adds to the experience, and definitely if you're one of those people, I know my dad is one of those people where when he's playing a racing game, he's sort of leaning into the corners a little bit and that kind of thing. Then I think it's going to add to your sort of immersion, especially if obviously you want to be in the in-car view.
Are there any limitations with the head tracking? Is it just single race, or can you actually use that in the career?
I didn't try it in the career, but I assume it works. Okay. Yeah, I just kind of took some time out to do free races when I was messing with the Connect stuff, but yeah, I imagine you can probably use it in the career. It'd be weird if you couldn't.
And there's a way, I remember at E3 they showed where when you're playing in Auto Vista, if you're using the tracking, you can actually get into the car and start racing from that position.
Oh yeah, that
totally. Okay.
Yeah, that totally works. Yeah.
Now, in terms of car customization, how much can you actually customize?
Well, so for the vinyls and stuff, you can do everything, right? You can repaint your car in. You can choose like manufacturer colors, or all the regular colors, or then metallic colors. You have some pretty crazy pearlescent colors, which are customizable. So you can choose like the 2 colors that are going to catch the light. And then vinyls, you can just whatever you want, like anything's fair game. I mean, you're going to get modded if you try and do anything offensive. But yeah, you could, I mean, as soon as you get on the game and you check other players' storefronts, you'll be blown away by what some of the users have been able to do. And in terms of body kits and stuff, it varies a lot from car to car. A lot of the cars actually only have pretty basic options, so it'll be like they call it like a Forza front wing and a Forza rear wing, and so you can add those to your cars, and those impact the handling and the appearance. But then other cars, like some of the muscle cars, and yeah, and then just the kind of like some of the Japanese kind of import tuners that people like to mod, like you'll get like very, very different looking body kits. Like I have a Honda S2000 that is almost unrecognizable, like especially the front end of it. And I've seen on the auction house just yesterday, a guy was selling, I think it was a Chevy or something that he'd done up, and he had like a big like scoop on the hood and all that kind of stuff. And that's stuff that wasn't in Forza 3. Okay. So like some of the stuff, like they've added more options for that.
Now, you were mentioning earlier about how you could change the weather in certain not so much the weather, but the time of day. And some of our users right now are pointing out that as the Stig is driving on the Nürburgring, that it's not as cloudy as it should be. Are there restrictions in terms of weather? Is every course always going to be morning, afternoon, and overcast, or are there certain courses where you have to race a certain weather, certain weather types?
It varies from course to course. Okay. So as you're, I can't think of specific examples, but yeah, like you'll go to. Like some tracks just don't have an option to change it. Okay. It's like you'll go there and you'll go to the option, and the only option there is late morning. So, and that's it. That's the only way you can race that particular track. The tracks, like the tracks that have like some of the tracks have two options, and it'll generally be like sunrise and then late afternoon, and that's because in the career mode in World Tour, there are some events that take place over 2 heats. And so the idea is that you're racing both of those heats on the same day, but you're racing, one in the morning and then one later in the day. And so, yeah, so it's the same track, but it looks very, very different. And the sunrise and the kind of sunset stuff in this game looks like really, really great. Like
excellent. Now, as we're watching the Stig race, a little bit more on the Nürburgring, I'm noticing that on the left side of the screen, underneath where it says place, the little icons appear up where it says turn, drift, and so on. And then there's bars beside it. Can you clarify or clear up what those bars are?
Yeah, so that's a new feature, and it's actually one of the things I really like about Forza 4. It's basically rating his driving technique. Okay. So, if you take a corner perfectly, you get 4 white bars. And then 3, 2, 1, and if you're getting 1, then you're either you're probably braking way too early, or I was going to say going off the track, but actually if you go off the track, they don't even rate you a lot of the time.
Okay.
So yeah, and it actually is great because you're getting that immediate feedback on your technique, and it really helps you to improve because you might think you're doing really well on a corner. You might think, oh yeah, I've got that corner down, but then you see a thing pop up and it's like, oh, you only got 2 out of 4, so you know that. You haven't mastered it yet, and on your next lap you can try do it differently, brake later or take a better approach or something.
Now, does that affect anything at post race, or do they tell you like how many turns you've mastered, what you've done right or wrong?
No, there's not. No, it doesn't affect like the money you get or the experience you get or anything like that. I don't think. But there are, so one of the other new things they've added, which I actually didn't really talk about in the review, I didn't have enough room to talk about everything. But they've added a thing, I think it's similar to what was introduced in, I want to say, Modern Warfare 2, where you create a custom gamer card for yourself. Okay. And so that has your name, your current level, and then you also get to choose like an icon and a kind of title for yourself. And so by doing things like doing perfect turns, perfect passes, perfect drifts, and perfect drafts, you unlock new titles and new graphics and stuff like that. So, mastering so I think getting like 1 perfect turn gets you a new graphic that you can add that lets people know, hey, I did a perfect turn. And then if you do maybe like 50, you get another graphic, and then 100, you get another graphic. So it's just a cool way, And there are graphics like that for other things too. Like for a while I was using a graphic that just said I was a painter because I'd already painted something and sold it on the auction house. So it's just like, oh hey, you get an emblem for that. Like you can show off that, yeah, you made something good enough that somebody bought it, and that kind of thing. So.
Now, as we continue to watch the Stig, I'm noticing that he refuses to use the rewind feature. I guess he doesn't like to use it. If he makes a mistake, he's going on. He doesn't care. What are your thoughts on the rewind?
You know what? I mean, while I was reviewing the game, I was definitely using it occasionally because I didn't have time to really kind of replay events. I was trying to just get through the career as much as I could and that kind of stuff. So I was using the rewind feature. The one thing I kind of wish is that, so right now there are two options. You can, when you're going into a race, you get to customize the difficulty for that race by tweaking all the assists, right? So the rewind counts as an assist.
Okay.
So before you go into a race, you basically just say, okay, I want rewind on or I want rewind off. If you turn it off, then you get maybe like an extra 10% to your money at the end of a race. If you leave it on, then even if you don't use it, it still costs you 10% because you went into the race with that safety net. So the problem is, once you have it turned on, like it's very easy to fall into the thing of just using it every time you mess up. Because once you use it once, I mean, you might as well just use it 100 times, right? You might as well just, why bother letting your car get damaged, or why settle for second when with a few rewinds you can get first? So I wish there was some kind of like middle ground where it was like, okay, I don't want to be using it all the time, so I want to, just say, okay, I'm going to give myself three rewinds per race, or something like that. Because then I think I'd be way less inclined to use it, and I would only use it, say, at the end of a 10-lap race if I make one stupid mistake, or an AI T-bones me or something, and it's like, oh, I just wasted 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that, I think it's great that the feature's in there. But it's too easy to fall into the trap of just abusing it, I think.
Well, so you're talking about another racer that's coming up, Need for Speed The Run. It actually has a feature similar to that where it has your races and there's checkpoints, and if you screw up, it'll let you go back to the checkpoint, but you're only allowed to go back, I think it's 3 times.
Okay.
So if you screw up 3 times, your race is over. You have to, you're done. So there is that kind of, there are games that are trying to do that middle ground where you're getting not full rewind, but no rewind. They're trying to find that perfect medium.
Yeah.
Now, if let's say we want to go online, how many people can we race against?
So this time it's 16, so they doubled the amount that you can have in Forza 3. And if you can't get a full field of 16, which I doubt will be a problem once the game comes out, but was definitely an issue at times during the review process, then you can just fill it with AI. And it's a lot of fun, I gotta say, the online stuff. I mean, Forza 3, online is the way to play it, right? The AI is pretty good. It's a little more aggressive this time, but really you just want to be racing with other people.
Now, did you notice any connection issues, performance issues while racing online with what you've raced?
Nothing
so far?
at all. And I mean, obviously there aren't tens of thousands of people racing online on the servers right now, but Forza 3 never really had many of those problems, so I very much doubt that we'll have those problems with this.
As the Stig is looking, selecting his next car, let's talk a little bit more about the cars. When you're in first-person view, when you're in the cockpit, actually, before we even ask that, what's your preferred method of, what's your preferred view when you race?
So, you know what? I know people don't like it. I like driving in the third person, like just outside the car. I think for me, it's because when I use a cockpit view, and Forza 4, I tried the cockpit view a pretty good amount, and I was doing pretty well with it early on, but I really missed just having that sense of what's going on around me. Like, you don't really have the periphery vision. If I could get some kind of 3-monitor setup, which I know the game supports, but you need more than one Xbox and multiple copies of the game maybe and all that kind of stuff. So
you need a lot of money.
Basically you need a lot of money. If I could get that kind of setup going, then sure, I would probably be way more inclined to try the cockpit.
Now, with the cockpit view that you have currently, with only one screen, of course, how much view or how much restriction is there inside that you're able to, that you can recall?
So you can, I think I'm right in saying that when you're playing with the controller, which is what I spend most of the time doing because I didn't want to lug the steering wheel between the office and my home, you can move the right stick, if you're not using the head tracking, to just kind of look around a little bit. But then the alternative is if you flick it just hard, like all the way right, left, or back, then it just switches to a camera and you don't see it like framed by the window or anything.
Okay.
It's just as if a camera's mounted on the side of your car, and it's seeing what's to your side.
Now, as we were talking about controls and in the cockpit, I don't know if I hope we're not going to get in trouble for me asking this, but have you had a chance to sample the upcoming Microsoft wireless controller that they're supposed to come out in a couple weeks' time?
Yeah, I have one here in the office. I didn't spend a great deal of time with it, but I think it works pretty great, and it's definitely a good, a much cheaper alternative than the Fanatec wheel, which is awesome, but also costs a lot of money.
Of course, yes.
It works pretty good. I mean, it obviously doesn't have proper force feedback, but it does the kind of rumble and stuff that a controller does.
Okay.
And I mean, once you get yourself set up with it, and if you can, be steady with it, and as long as you're able to hold it totally steady to keep in a straight line, then yeah, it works pretty great.
Excellent. Is there anything else you feel like we haven't touched upon that may that really stood out for you? While
did you guys talk about the Rivals mode?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Yeah. So so if you've played like Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit, or more recently Burnout Crash, then the autolog feature that Criterion introduced, and basically Rivals mode is like Forza's answer to that, I should say. And so the way it works is they have a bunch of different events set up, and so anytime I can just go in, and when I'm choosing, like, do I want to do career, do I want to do free race, a new option is rival mode, and I go in, there's a bunch of these different events set up into categories. So there's drifting, there's hot laps, there's overtaking challenges, there's like all these different event types, and basically they'll just match you up with a rival. And ideally, that's going to be someone from your friends list or someone from your car club. But if not, it'll just be a random person. And then you can go in and race against their ghost. And if you beat them, then you get a bunch of credits and XP towards your level in your career. And then what's cool is once you get friends and car club members that you're doing this stuff with, it does the autolog thing where you get messages.
Okay, excellent.
It's going to be like, oh, hey, Marko just beat your time on this event. You going to stand for that? Hell no. I'm going to go right now and redo that event, and I'm going to beat him. So I've had a little bit of a rivalry going with Brian Ekberg, who used to work at GameSpot, now actually works at Turn 10.
So he has the unfair advantage, I'm guessing.
So yeah, a little bit. But yeah, there was one event where we had a little bit of toing and froing. Like he kind of beat me, or he set a time, I think, then I went in and beat it by like a second, and then he came back and beat it again. So we have a little bit of a thing going, and I can't wait for a lot more people on my friends list and stuff to start playing. Now
with EA's Autolog, which actually is featured in pretty much all the racing games now, it has a social media interaction. You can actually get an app for your iPhone, iPod Touch. Is there anything like that for Forza 4? Is it just going to be in-game notifications?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I mean, Forza 4 uses much the same messaging system that Forza 3 did.
Okay.
So you just, you get letters from the Turn 10 team letting you know about events that are coming up. You get similar messages, for when something sells on your storehouse or if you win an auction. They have a few more options so that you can sort through different types of mail now, which is probably going to be helpful when there's a lot of people playing. And for me especially, like I'm definitely looking to use the storefront stuff a lot. So it'd be good if that stuff isn't all getting mixed up with other types of messages. So. But yeah, as far as I know, there aren't any like external apps or anything that you can use.
At least not yet. Maybe that's something
that not that I know of. Yeah, I mean, you can still. I mean, Forza Motorsport.net is still a site that you can upload things to. You upload all your replays and photos and check all that stuff out. And the photo stuff's. I mean, again, they haven't changed it massively, but it's so much fun just to go in and go through a replay and find some awesome shot. And they've got so many different settings now to make the photos look good. It's really great.
Now, with some of those Kinect, we're going to go touch upon Kinect again.
Sure.
Are any of the Kinect options? Do you have to use the Kinect, or what if you're one of those people that owns one of the Xbox webcams, from ages ago?
Oh, jeez.
Does that work? Do you know?
Wow. So I do own one of those old webcams. As far as I know, there's nothing you can do with that. I never even thought to plug it in.
Okay.
I don't know that you can do anything with it, and I don't think there's anything that you do with Kinect in this. I mean, other than the head tracking, there's nothing you do with Kinect in this game that you can't also do with a controller. Because Auto Vista would really be the only thing. And that's honestly slightly easier to do with a controller.
Perfect.
So.
Our time here is slowly coming to an end. We've had the review up, video and text, so people can be able to check those out. Once again, when does Forza 4 hit stores?
It comes out next Tuesday.
So just in a couple of days.
Is it the 11th?
Yeah, today's Thursday, right. So yeah, it's a couple of days.
Right. Yeah, working it. Yeah. So yeah, it comes out. Yeah, I've got my my special edition pre-ordered. I've had it pre-ordered for quite a while.
Excellent.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it because I didn't get any of the pre-order bonus cars with the review copy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some of the extra cars. And the thing, actually, I guess I don't know if you talked about like your progression through the career. And,
no, actually, we didn't. Is it similar to last year's where you had both your own character level and then manufacturer's levels? Or?
It's a little different. So yeah, so this time the way it works is you don't like individual cars don't level up at all. But what happens is, so you level up in much the same way, and then what happens is every time you drive a car, you increase your affinity with that manufacturer. So for me, like I grew up on a Toyota dealership, so I really like Toyotas, right? So pretty early on, I was getting my affinity with Toyota pretty high up because I'm driving a little MR2, and I'm buying all the Toyotas. And so then what happens is every time your affinity goes up, you get a cash bonus from the manufacturer, and you also, for the first 4 levels, you get like a 25% discount on all parts for that manufacturer. So by the time you reach level 4, which actually doesn't take that long, all of your parts are 100% off.
Wow, so you can free.
Yeah, so all the upgrades for your cars are like, and honestly, you don't need to upgrade cars in this game as much as you did in Forza 3, at least for the single player like World Tour stuff, which I'll talk about a bit more in a minute. But yeah, so now you just increase your affinity with manufacturers, and so after level 4, okay, all parts are free, and then they just start giving you pretty big cash bonuses. Like I also have a bunch of Ferraris now because I'm trying to get the achievement for owning all the Ferraris.
Okay.
And yeah, like I think the last race I did for Ferrari, my bonus from them was like, I don't know, 50-odd thousand credits or something. Like, so it's pretty profitable. If you can pick a manufacturer that you like and stick with it to some extent, then the money's going to come in that much quicker. And yeah, in the career mode, the whole thing works a little differently now because instead of opting into different championships and that kind of thing, what happens now is it really is like a world tour. It's like you don't get any say in where you're going next. Okay. So it's like, okay, I just finished a race at Mugello, and now I'm being told I'm going to race at Sebring, and there's nothing you can do to change that. But then what happens is once you get to Sebring, they'll present you with normally 3 different options for races that you can compete in, and these, I think a lot of the time they're based on the car that you're in currently. Or at the very least, they're based on cars that you have in your garage.
Okay.
So even towards the end of the career, like I'm about halfway through my 8th season now, and I believe the maximum you can do is 10. So I'm being encouraged to race in R3 class cars. But if there's, if I don't want to race in an R3 car because maybe I'm not comfortable in that car on this particular circuit yet or something, 9 times out of 10, I can just jump into a B-class car in my garage, come back to the track, and they'll offer me different events based on that car.
Okay.
So if I jump into, say, the old BMW Turbo that we're going to see now, it might present me with E-Class. Yeah, it'll be like, do you want to do an E-Class race?
Yes.
Or do you want to do an all BMW manufacturer race? Or do you even want to do a race that's just for this specific model? So you could actually, conceivably, you could make it through the entire career without doing too much in the sort of super fast cars if you're not confident in those cars.
Now, do you prefer that over actually, racing in a wide variety of different cars?
I think the thing I like more about it is that it gives you a bit more freedom to choose. I think because when I went back and revisited Forza 3. Like I was in the middle of a championship which was just for Mini Coopers. So before I could do anything else, I had to do maybe like 4 more races in my Mini Cooper. And I like a Mini Cooper, but I don't know. It's nice to just mix things up a bit. Like at least, I mean, it's nice to get really, really good in one car, but it's also nice to just be like, you know what, I just raced in this Ferrari. Maybe now I'll go back and race in my little MR2 for a bit, and then maybe I'll jump into the Aston Martin and just, for me, I like to mix things up a bit, really.
Now, have you noticed any cars that are, exclusive to Forza 4 that you haven't been able to, race in other racing games?
Wow.
I know it's kind of difficult considering there's over 500 cars. And
no, I mean, none really leap out at me. I mean, the big news really for cars was unfortunately that they don't have Porsche anymore. Nothing really jumps out at me as being like exclusive to this series. I mean, they definitely have a lot of cars from very, very small manufacturers who, manufacturers that may have only ever made one or 2 or 3 different models ever. But then I think Gran Turismo did a real good job with that stuff too. So yeah, I don't really want to put my neck on the line and say, oh, this car's exclusive, because it's probably not.
Now, is the variety of cars, the array of cars, really well represented across the board? Do you have a fair amount of standard cars compared to premium cars, or are there more of a focus just on supercars over little?
I think one of the things that maybe sets Forza apart from Gran Turismo, I mean, Gran Turismo, great game, tons and tons of cars, right? But the thing that Gran Turismo does is they'll have an awful lot of cars that you don't particularly want to drive. And they won't just have one version of that car, they'll have like 12 versions of the car that your mum drives, right? Whereas Forza is more like, okay, that like even so, like I mean, like Fiat, for example. Like I want to check to see how many Fiats there are. There's like 1 Fiat in this game right now.
Oh wow!
That's it. It's like they're very picky about which cars they include, and you get a pretty good mix. Like when you're choosing your first car in the game, you get to choose. I chose like a Ford car. I think I got to choose from like 5. And there's a pretty good number of those like small like E-class cars. The kind of stuff your mum drives, the kind of stuff you see parked at shopping malls. But really, Forza does a better job, I think, of just having cars that you actually aspire to own, like the kind of cars you dream about driving. And they focus more on that. Like I don't even know how many Ferraris there are. Like I'm trying to get all of them, and it just seems like there's a lot. But luckily I've been able to get most of them for free, because in the thing I was going to try, I just keep rambling. But in the career mode now, what happens is when you level up, instead of just getting given a car and kind of being stuck with it, and in Forza 3, especially early on, you kind of got stuck with a lot of cars you don't really want. You can't sell them on the auction house because everybody has them. Like everybody got the same car when they hit level 3, and you don't get much money if you trade them in or whatever. So what happens now is every time you level, you get to choose a bunch of cars within a different theme. So I'm just trying to think, like one of them might be, I don't know, like New American Muscle, I think is one of the classes, and so when you reach that level, you get to choose from maybe 4 or 5 modern American muscle cars. And so for one thing, it's like, you're at least getting some say in like which manufacturer you like. Are you a Ford guy? Are you a Chevy guy? I don't know. Like they don't know, so they let you choose which car you want. And so for me, I've been choosing Ferraris at almost every opportunity. I think the only time I made an exception was for the Aston Martin 177.
Okay.
And I'm planning to get a video up at some point of like all the prize cars as well, because sometimes the value of those cars varies dramatically. Like I think it was at level 30 maybe. You get to choose a bunch of like classic Le Mans cars and that kind of thing. And I opted for the Ferrari P4, the 330 P4, which cost like 9 million. It's one of the more expensive cars in the entire game. And then the next best option in terms of like value was the Ford GT40 Mark II, which I think is only valued at 1.5 million, maybe 2 million. So yeah, if you're like me and you have the kind of Pokemon mentality, like gotta catch them all, then I think it's useful to know maybe which cars are most expensive when you're choosing your prize cars.
With the cars available in Forza 4, we've been touching upon the available cars that are in the game. again, we have to compare it to Gran Turismo 5. The standard between the premium cars in Gran Turismo 5 compared to the high-end cars in Forza 4, does one stand better than the other?
I don't think so. I mean, some of the GT5 premium ones, I think maybe modeled some of the grills and stuff like that better. Like I only say that because I know when I was looking at one of the, although that might not have been an Auto Vista now I think about it, that might have been the car I painted. There was definitely one car I looked at where I definitely noticed that like one of the kind of grill things on the back was a texture. It wasn't like actually modeled. But that now I think about it, that actually wasn't a Auto Vista car. I don't know. I mean, honestly, they're both just so good that it's hard to choose between them. I really like the way Auto Vista lets you interact with the cars. I think it's a bit friendlier, and the fact that it lets you climb in and close the door behind you, and just get some information about the cars and hear Jeremy Clarkson talking about them. It's a really nice touch.
How many cars are actually available in Auto Vista?
So on the disc, when you put it in the first time, there are 24 cars listed. One of them has a little DLC icon on it, so you're going to have to download that one. And I don't know if it's going to be like premium content or if it's going to come packed in with new copies or something like that. But then only 4 are unlocked from the beginning. And so then what happens is, to unlock I keep talking about the 177, but it's such an awesome car. So if you want to look at the 177 in Auto Vista mode, you have to first complete a challenge in that car, which is it's just like win a race in that car. And there are challenges like that for all of the rest of the cars to unlock them. I haven't done it yet, but my understanding is once you unlock all of them, that's when you also unlock the Warthog.
Okay, I was about to actually ask you that.
Because you obviously don't get to drive the Warthog, so there isn't a challenge where you have to race in a Warthog or anything.
All right, that's cool. In terms of, again, I have to keep comparing this with Gran Turismo 5 because people are asking about it.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo 5 is coming up with an update in a couple weeks' time, which has cockpit view with proper details in all the cars.
Yeah.
Are there any limitations with views and with car details in Forza 4?
You mean do they all let you do the cockpit?
Do they let you get into the cockpit? Or is it authentic, or are there a couple of cars where it's just very generic in the cockpit?
No. All the ones I've tried to say are definitely all up to the same high standard. Honestly, one of the main reasons I stopped kind of persevering with the cockpit view in Forza 4 is just because some of the cars. I mean, even the Bugatti here that our Stig is driving, like you can see, like I feel like it just limits your view so much.
Okay.
And it's to me that's not entirely realistic, right? Because when I'm driving a car in real life, and I'll admit I haven't driven a Veyron in real life, but I would hope that I can see a bit more than that.
Of course.
Like one of the cars I think it's the Spiker car that's in Forza 4. And I was driving that, and like the view's so weird. Like I have this tiny windshield, and then I can see the roof, and I can actually see up through the sunroof.
Oh wow!
In this view, and it's like, I think I was trying to drive it around the Bernese Alps, so there's lots of kind of, up and down slopes, and it's just I couldn't see where I was going some of the time. So, yeah, I don't know how they're gonna crack it, but I don't know. I feel when you're sat in a car, you're not looking at the windshield, you're looking through the windshield. So I don't know, it's a little weird to me. I mean, when I'm driving, I feel like most of the time I don't see the steering wheel in front of me. I don't see half the stuff on my dash, like unless I make a point of looking down at it,
In regards, you were talking about perception, is there 3D support for Forza 4?
You know what, I'm not gonna say 100% no, I'm just gonna say I haven't heard of it.
Okay.
And I really, really hope not, because if there is, I didn't test it.
Okay. No, it's because
I'm pretty certain there isn't.
Okay, because I know with some racing games, I know Gran Turismo 5 had that, and a couple, MotorStorm isn't true simulation racing, but they are trying to implement that as much as possible.
Yeah,
nowadays,
well, Sony is, because they have a vested interest in the 3D TVs.
All right, that's true enough. True enough. Now, with the car levels in terms of their values, do they actually decrease in value if you modify them yourself? Like when you do vinyl jobs, when you want to resell, can you adjust the price, or how's that done?
You know what? It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Actually, so the first thing I'll say is, so the prize cars that you get, they don't have any resale value if you're just trying to sell it back to the game, as it were. Like so even like my Ferrari P4, if I were to sell that, like not using the auction house right now, I get 100 credits.
Okay.
Like that's the flat rate for every single prize car. So you can't do that thing where you just keep amassing prize cars, and then just sell them all to buy the cars you actually want. On the auction house, though, I think the prize cars are probably going to be more valuable than they were in 3, because not everybody's going to have them. Some people are going to have made different choices. So there's more potential for selling your prize cars on the auction house than there was. And in terms of the mods and stuff you're doing to them, it's really hard to say, because I saw a muscle car sell for a lot of money on the auction house yesterday, but I kind of wonder why someone would pay that much money for it, assuming they're buying it for the parts that are on it, because you only have to buy that car yourself as a showroom car, race it maybe 6 or 7 times, and you could put all those parts on yourself for free. So I think more of the value now is going to come, not from parts, but from tune jobs and from paint jobs. And I really, hopefully paint jobs especially, because I plan on doing a few of those.
Okay. I just got word that there is actually no 3D in Forza 4.
Okay, so yeah, I really didn't think there was. I just didn't want to, commit to that.
Now, I did have just a question right now. It was actually, if I remember, I will ask you it as soon as I can. I just slipped my mind. It had something to do with the auctioning.
Yeah, the auction house, it works in much the same way that it did in 3, where you just, you get to list your stuff. You can set the start price. You can set a buyout price. You can set the duration. So all the same kind of stuff. And for buyers, it's still pretty easy to, find the things that you're looking for. Yeah, I don't know. The auction house, it hasn't been that active as of right now. There's definitely been a few cars coming up, and I've managed to buy a couple pretty cheap on there. And yeah, there aren't that many designs. Oh, I should say real quick that you get to keep the designs from Forza 3.
Okay.
I don't know if you... Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to keep talking. So real quickly, so if you played Forza 3, when you start playing 4, you get to import your profile. And depending on your level and on what cars you had and on whether you were VIP, you get awarded money and cars right at the start of the game. So for me, as soon as I started playing Forza 4, I already had like a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, the Veyron. I had the Camaro SS unicorn car that I managed to get in Forza 3. I had like 55,000 credits. And then I also got to import all my vinyl designs, but you don't get to keep the completed car liveries.
Okay.
So I have to redo my like classic Toyota 2000 GT livery that I seem to do in every game, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, I'm going to ask you just one quick question. Hopefully you can answer quickly.
Sure.
My question earlier was, you're mentioning the review, you can use actual real Microsoft points to buy cars. How does that work? How much is the exchange rate
so, there? I wish I could answer that, because it's not actually, like the option is in the game right now, but when you select it, it just says, oh, how many points do you want to buy? And then it doesn't give you the option to buy them, so you don't get to see the exchange rate. What I do know is that, so you buy car tokens, my guess is that they will be $1 each, 80 Microsoft points, but I'm pulling that out of thin air. I don't know for sure. And then cars will cost either 1, 2, or 3 car tokens to buy. So yeah, so either end. I was thinking about it a lot, and I was like, would I do this? Because part of me doesn't want to support the kind of microtransaction model. But then another part of me is like, well, if I really, really want this one car and it's going to cost me like, 10, 11 million, that's going to take me a really long time. Like I'm almost done with the career, and I have less than 2 million credits right now. So yeah, maybe, if I can spend $2, $3 and get that car, maybe I would. I don't know. I think I'd probably try to buy it on the auction house rather than, try and get a bargain. But yeah, I really wish I could answer that. The other thing I'll just say real quick that I wasn't able to test because it's going to be DLC on day one, and I really wish I could have tested it, is the Top Gear soccer mode.
Okay.
Yeah, the course that or the arena, the pitch, whatever you want to call it, that you play that on, is day one DLC, and it wasn't available for reviewers, unfortunately.
Okay. Now, do you remember, is that based on the ice course that they did a couple of years ago, or is it actual grass?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I know they've done it a bunch of different ways on the show,
Okay.
so I'm not sure, and I don't know if they're going to limit what cars you can use. Like, it looks like you can choose different classes for that mode, and you can choose a few different cars within that class, but I don't know if they're going to let you just use any, I don't know if they're going to let you do like Bugatti Veyron soccer or something. I'm not sure if that's going to work.
Well, when it comes out, we should definitely in the office get a couple of us to try that out, see how crazy
Oh,
it can
definitely.
be.
Yeah.
Now, once again, we've given the viewers quite a bit of information. The game hits on Tuesday. According to what I've been told, starting tomorrow there will be an achievement competition starting. I believe it's based on Forza 4, so be sure to stay tuned on the site to get more details on that. Also, be sure everyone to stay tuned. Only a matter of hours for On the Spot. And Justin, I just have to say thank you for coming in.
Yeah, no
rushing in from your meeting.
Sorry again that I was late.
Don't worry, I was able to handle this. Stig was memorable with his man of few words.
Who is that guy?
It's the Stig. That's all that
Okay.
matters. He's the GameSpot Stig. So once again, guys, Forza 4 hits on Tuesday. Check out On the Spot in just a matter of hours, and thanks for watching.